Hello, and welcome to Insightful Conversations with your host, Three Principles practitioner, Adey-Jones. Join her each week as she welcomes some of the world's leading Three Principles teachers and practitioners who share how this understanding has dramatically improved the quality of their lives and the lives of those they work with.
I'm so excited to have in the studio with me today one of the original students of Sydney Banks, Harry Derbitsky. Harry is a Three Principles teacher and practitioner, and one of his areas of expertise is in the field of addiction, specializing in low-income, high-risk, and indigenous peoples. Harry is president of ACT, Advanced Coaches Training, and he recently finished his third book, Evolution of Addiction Recovery. So welcome, Harold, and thank you so much for joining me today.
Oh, my pleasure, for sure.
It's we've just come from this incredible conference in LA. It was lovely to meet you in person, and I'm glad I managed to grab you before you head back to Canada.
It was quite a conference, wasn't it?
It was. You know what I loved about it? It was just how what the feeling I got was that we're all in this together. There's no hierarchy. We're all spiritual beings having a human experience. We're all doing the best we can. And this understanding has helped, certainly me in my life, alleviate so much suffering. And that's what we're here doing, is sharing it.
Yeah. And I felt the same. I felt that it was a different conference. Yeah. I actually hadn't even been a member of 3PGC, but they gave that talk about unity, and it's touched me. And because I want to see all of us come together. Yeah. That's Sid Stream. One thought, one. And the more we experience that, the more 3P will be in the purity of the principles rather than just a lower version of it. And that's really important. When Sid passed away, he wanted it to get big, but more than anything else, he wanted the purity of the principles to be maintained. Yeah. And that's why he established the school, so that that would not be lost. Because if it got big but lost the purity of the message, he would be very disappointed.
Yeah, that's so interesting, I know, because it is such a simple message. And we were just talking earlier about that, I know that you predominantly work in the field of addiction, not exclusively.
Actually,
not predominantly?
I go wherever the energy takes me. Yeah. So when I went into addiction, I thought, well, this is great, because when I was in the indigenous world, no one wanted to talk about it. But the addiction world, everybody did, especially in the 3P community. But then life took me into all other directions as well, and that augmented what I had to learn. You see, it's a learning by, Elsa used mentoring by mind, of the mind, yes. And I call it mentoring by spirit.
Yeah.
So life takes you to what you need, and then now I have, with the book, settled into this area in a more concrete way. I was concrete, but life took me in other directions. And I love that.
Yeah.
I love that what we're teaching applies to everything. And every time I go here, I learn about this here. And then that makes me more worldly.
That's so great, and that's what I was sharing with you. I loved your book. And well, let's go back to the indigenous peoples for a while, because I told you I was returning from a trip to Peru, and so this book was perfect timing for me to read, because I love how it's definitely a fabulous Three Principles book, and it talks about it so much more than just in the area of addiction, because as we were mentioning, underneath addiction is all the same. It's what it is. It's human suffering.
Yeah.
So, but I also love how you blend your spiritual teachings from working with indigenous people.
Yeah, that came to me as a surprise. I was in the sweat lodge, and I'm a pipe carrier, so I'm sort of a man of the spirit. The people see me like that, so I walk a little differently than most of the other, let's say, non-indigenous people. And So they come to me for help and advice and for ceremony and to teach them about the pipe and so on. And I love doing that. And I'm in a ceremony, and the spirit said to me, you have to include indigenous. Yeah. And I said, at that point, I was very convinced I wanted to keep it out of the book. But I said, are you sure? And they said, absolutely. Yeah. And I says, okay. And so that's a message from within. Even though I described it in a mystical, spiritual way of a hearing, it's really the purity of thought expressing itself in a way that resonates with your heart, or something of
like
that
you say,
sort.
you were being guided by mind, spirit, whatever
that's
you
right.
want to call it. It's the same thing. Mind, God, spirit, God.
That's right.
It's the same thing. It's
so that's mentoring by mind that Elsie was talking about. And as soon as I came to that realization, it felt very comfortable. Yeah. And as I wrote that into the book, I had to write from what I saw and so on. And the first indigenous person exploded. He says, oh, you're insensitive here and you're insensitive here and all this stuff. And so I had not been exposed to something quite as sharp and strong once my writing was on the paper. But the problem was they were telling me what I was doing wrong. But they weren't, but I was still confused. So, okay, that's insensitive the way I'm expressing it. I know I'm not prejudiced, but it sounds prejudiced from. And then I met Marcella, and she went into, for a short period of time, into a very deep communal feeling with me. And she's not only showed me what was wrong, 'cause she intuitively understands that, she showed me how to do it right. Yeah. And that's what we want to do as 3P practitioners or people with addicted. We're not there to tell them what they're doing wrong.
Exactly.
Without, over here is a breath of fresh air. Yeah. Your own inner wisdom will take you to what you need to see and experience. But you have to have a good feeling. And if you're always beating yourself up with tough, working hard at that in a mental level, you'll never arrive at that.
I mean, that's so true. I mean, I hear what you're saying. A lot of the addiction, the world of addiction up until this point, and we're not slagging off the 12-step program. It's certainly helped an awful lot of people. But I think there can be this element of there's something wrong with you.
The disease for the rest of your life.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Whereas the three principles comes from a completely different perspective. So
we
share
have
that.
And I want to address that in a different way because it's easy to say 3P is better than 12 steps.
Yeah.
But that's not my viewpoint anymore. Different aspects help different people at different times. Yeah. Anything that alleviates suffering gets a check mark, whether it's native spirituality, 12-step, Christianity, or so on. So we're here, but part of my evolution is like I was very prejudiced against anything that was non-3P. Like ours is better and yours is sucky here, and you're not getting really very good results, type of thing. So, but when I wrote the book, it opened up my world to non-3P people. And so the book, I have no credentials. I am not a PhD psychologist. I have never taken a psychology course. I never will take a psychology. Everything I have learned is from my own insights, and of course, the teaching and mentoring by Sid. But what happens is now I'm out in the ordinary world. Not everybody is 3P. In fact, most people aren't. And so I went into this recovery center, and this lady was a beautiful lady, and she was Gestalt therapist. Yeah. And she was talking and going, can I work with this person? I mean, this is contradictory to, I mean, I have integrity. But then we talked about what created healing. And she said, it's the person goes inside, experiences a spiritual feeling inside themselves, their own inner wisdom, and that's where the healing originates from.
Yeah.
And I said, whoa, there we are. I can talk to her about that. We have common ground. So we
Yeah.
want to start to see the common ground of communication, of opening up to talk, so that we can have these discussions, because everybody in the really smart, wise therapists in addiction and alcoholism, which is more what I deal with, they all see, there's not all, but a huge percentage are looking for a deeper perception and understanding, because they can see it's limited.
Yeah, it's so interesting you should say that, because I absolutely love what you're sharing, because I did, before I got into the three principles, I studied spiritual psychology, and Gestalt was a huge part of it, and I also did a lot of shadow work. And the things that attracted me to them, the certain modalities that attracted me, were the ones where we just absolutely embraced every aspect of our humanity. We didn't beat ourselves up. We loved ourselves, and we accepted ourselves, whether they were called disowned aspects or the shadow or whatever you wanted to call it. And I think for me personally, whatever can take you to that place will help you heal. And that's why I think the three principles are having such, and again, we're not knocking any of the others, because anything that helps
No, we're
anybody.
actually complementing.
Exactly.
That's why my book is called Evolution. Evolution, by Sid's definition, is jumping the boundaries of time. Why take 20 years to do something when you can do it in 15 or 20 minutes, or a certain series of time? And what I've wrestled with now is, where does 3P fit in? And basically, to the mind of a human being who's looking for a spiritual, psychological answer to their addiction, or who they're taking care of with their addiction, 3P is the perfect place to look.
Yeah.
If you're looking for a system of support or a religion, then there are other places for your mind. But for the people, and we know because stress is such a big player out there in the world, a lot of people are experiencing it through a psychological paradigm, but they don't understand that 3P is so beautiful, because it's a spiritual psychological paradigm. And the spiritual part is the essence of, you feel good. And that good feeling is your guide.
Yeah.
And you start to learn, because basically what happens is the addicted experience a good feeling without drugs, but they don't know what to do with it. And so they slip back right into, they get afraid of it.
Yeah.
And you know yourself, people are afraid of success. People are afraid of things that bring beautiful feelings when they misinterpret it.
Exactly. We were talking earlier too about, we're talking right now maybe about alcoholism and drug addiction, but what the 3P addresses, what your book addresses too, is the underlying issue. It's the anxiety, it's the busy mind, it's the insecure thinking. And that can manifest in many different ways. I mean, we were talking, it could be drugs, alcohol, shopping, sex, gambling, eating.
And does,
exactly.
Yeah. We can just have to walk outside
Yeah.
and open our eyes, and we can see that that's a growing problem in the world. So we have, in the book, we have a time in our evolution of humanity where stress is moving up at an enormous level. Speed is moving up at the pace that people are operating at an enormous level, and then the need for assistance to get off that. Because no problem having a beer, but there's a bit of a problem if you're having 50 beers, type of thing. So. Or drugs and so on. So we I forget where I was going with that, but we need to find a way with honesty Humanity at this present stage is at an epidemic level with regards to this opiate addiction crisis that is happening. And the solutions are diminishing in results. So we have acceleration of stress-related diseases or habits, depending on which one. And we have the preponderance of the answer getting muddier and muddier because it's old.
Yes.
And then we have what we call with the 3P, the 3 principles as uncovered by Sid, we have truth. It's forget about 3 principles, truth and wisdom. And we have access, truth, and wisdom. You'll know it's right. Every human being knows when they
hear it.
When they hear that.
Yeah.
It's like when a woman sees a man that doesn't fit any of her criteria for what she's looking for, but she knows she's already in love with him.
Yes, he's the one.
Yes.
Wisdom is guiding her and speaking to her in that moment.
That's right.
Yeah.
And it's the same. So what happens is higher levels of addicted people start to see, actually, I don't want to get rid of the addiction.
Yeah.
What's the point of being addicted if I'm unhappy? So they're looking, they want to be happy, and they understand that the addiction will slide away naturally.
Exactly, because really all they're looking for is peace of mind. They're looking to sort of lower that anxiety, lower that sort of stress or whatever it is, and they're looking for something on the outside to alleviate that. Which is where the 3 principles points to is we can attain that without an outside substance or behavior. But what I also wanted to talk about is you have a YouTube series that is phenomenal, and you hold this twice a week live. Is that right?
Twice a month.
Zoom? Twice a month. I meant.
Yeah,
sorry.
yeah. We do it. It's called Addictions, Alcoholism, and the 3 Principles. That's our Facebook group and also our YouTube group. And by the end of the summer, by the end of this season, we'll have close to 1 million minutes viewed on it. And the reason it's been successful is we have one guest, the first, and then we have a group discussion, the second talk. But all the discussions are group discussion.
Yeah.
So we don't let the guests just talk.
Yes, exactly.
And what happens is they get stimulated. The moment they get stimulated or turned on by the questions of the participants or the viewpoints, they start to head into new terrain.
Yes.
And that's what the show is about, taking our understanding of 3P and addiction higher. We don't know where higher is all the time, but we know we can intuitively feel that we're heading in that direction.
Yeah.
And the show has taken off because of that.
I've listened to it. It's phenomenal. And what I love about it is you don't even have to identify as having an addiction or a habit. It just keeps talking to the principles and the underlying understanding. And as you said, it's so fresh in the moment because, you got people participating and asking questions, and then you can watch it on YouTube afterwards if you do miss the live events.
Or you
Facebook.
feel uncomfortable exposing yourself to being in the addicted world. Yeah. And I want to bring a point up that I'm starting to see. Greg and I have a phenomenal harmony between the two of us, and so I have never been addicted. He has been heavily addicted. Had a spiritual insight that in 1 second, totally his addiction disappeared, and so he has an understanding of the addiction and how the 3 principles create the human experience and how to hey, don't take it so serious type of stuff.
Yeah.
And I have, coming from a totally different viewpoint, more a spiritual approach, only in the sense that that's what Sid taught. So I didn't come from it from a psychological perspective. I came from a spiritual searching. What is the meaning of life? What is my relationship with God or mind? You know, mind is just simply a psychological word for God.
Exactly.
And so don't get caught up in it's now hokey pokey stuff. It's so we blended together in creating a feeling that wherever our mind constructively went, but he's continually teaching me because he has a whole different
entry point
than I have,
Yeah.
and I'm teaching him to let go. But the beauty is sometimes when I'm on the show, that I had this experience. I would hear him talk, and I would go da 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 da, and then when I created the Golden Moments course, which is everything on our YouTube channel is free.
Yes.
That's really important. We are a free resource attracting the top people in the 3P world and not charging. You know, people, that's not so prevalent. You're also doing that with this show. It's the wave. So when we come together, we have no prep ever. I sent to him, "Are you okay with this topic?" "Yeah, I'm good." I said, "Well, I'm good too." That's our prep.
Fresh in the moment.
Fresh
keeps
in
it
the
alive.
moment. But we immediately, when the show starts, we can catch the moment. In a way, there's a teaching there. The less you prep, the freer you are to be in the moment.
Totally. Freer to hear wisdom talking through you.
Yeah, and that took a little bit of time for me, a lot of time, because I had been so intellectual. So even though I think...
Even in all your spiritual...
it makes no, you bring who you are.
Yeah.
I am in the top 99.9% in math. And,
Oh, really?
Yeah, so you don't...
Wow.
You don't...
Still got that analytical mind.
Yeah, but I only bring it out from when I need it.
Yeah.
And I don't... When I was young, I worshipped it and nurtured it, but I just use it when I need it, and it settles me because it's a gift.
Yeah.
So if you don't use your gift, it goes to sleep. So you know, I see numbers floating in the air, but if you don't use it, the numbers start to be on paper type of thing. Yeah. So we want to uncover our gifts. I want to really emphasize to people, you have phenomenal gifts, addicted or non-addicted.
Absolutely.
And 90% of those gifts aren't released in your lifetime because of your beliefs.
Yeah.
You believe. So I was told all my life, you can't write.
Yeah.
You know, I'm mathematical 1, 2, 3 stuff, and I can't write. And I believed that.
Wow.
And then one day, I got a project to work in an indigenous community, and the highest lady said to her friend, "I saw that guy in my dream. He's going to write my story."
Wow.
And I went to her because I was told that. Took her out for lunch, and she told her story, and I didn't understand a word of it. It was all just mishkabooble all over the thing.
Yeah.
And then for 2 days, I didn't do anything. I said, I better write this down on the computer, or else I'm going to lose it. And I wrote it, and everything flowed like water.
Wow.
Magic, except for one little section, and I phoned her. She gave me clarification, and then in indigenous, you only write their story. But I couldn't do that. I had stuff to say too, being that type of guy.
Yeah.
So I included some of what I understand in her story, and then I went to her and read it, and I said, "Is this what you meant?" And she said, "Exactly."
Wow, I love that.
Yeah, and so I said to myself, "Oh, I guess I can write."
Yeah.
And that,
Well, I'm going to take note of that because I have always thought that, I can't write either. And I know there's a book in me. So I'm going to carry those words with me and just start doing it. But you know what, Harry, I'm so sorry, but we are running out of time.
oh, okay.
But I just want you to share again your website because I know you have the Golden Moments video courses. As you say, it's all the golden moments.
I have my website, which is acttraining.biz, B-I-Z. And then we have the addiction, alcoholism, and the 3 Principle website, which Greg and I both create. And on it are the 55 videos or so on what are we in? April 14th, the Sunday, we have Michael Neal coming on.
Fabulous.
And
Great.
and that for us is a little bit different because we have chosen different people for reasons. But one of the things that came to my mind was we want to bring different perspectives.
Sure.
And he'll bring that along with a big group of people to watch the show.
I know. That's so fabulous because that's exactly what we were talking about. This show is the same. I want different perspective. We've got, every gamut, every part of life that the 3 Principles talks to. So.
Yeah, so that you can go to Addiction, Alcoholism, and the 3 Principles at a Facebook group and join our membership, of which we have about 650 people or so, and our shows, which we'll have close to on YouTube. Just type that in. We'll have close to 1 million minutes viewed coming up.
And also, I just want to mention there's a podcast that you were a guest on called The Rehab with Dr. Mark Leeds, and that is an absolutely fabulous interview with you. So anybody that wants a little bit more of Harry Derbitsky, go and look him up on podcasts and on the YouTube, and you'll see tons of stuff.
Yeah.
Okay.
I have a little laugh at the same time. Yeah.
Same here. I love to laugh.
Yeah.
Well, thank you again. It was just such a pleasure. And thank you for listening, and we'll see you all next week.